Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. And Fergus Ewing is furious. He's had his 7-day suspension upheld. He is now, for 1 week, no longer a member of the party. He cannot vote for or against them. He doesn't represent them, and all sorts of things. He can still walk in and vote. They don't have that power. They can only suspend him from the party. But he is someone, I think, that is universally respected regardless of political ideology. I think everyone in the House respects him. I think most people in the country respect him regardless, as I say, of whatever party they personally support. And I think that if he took umbrage hard enough and decided, you know what, enough's enough, I'm fed up of all these people. This is a man who gave his entire life to the SNP, and I think he's really upset with the Johnny-come-latelys that are now trying to humiliate him, trying to bully him, trying to treat him like some kind of recalcitrant schoolboy. I think he could have enough, and I think he could walk. And it wouldn't surprise me, and I think many people would applaud him for doing so. It would, after all, be the final humiliation for Humza Yousaf. Don't forget, the Ewings have a long tradition with the SNP. His mother more or less rebranded the entire party. Huge talent, hugely liked, and they're doing this to him because he dared to stand up for the people and voted against the Greens. It wasn't even his own party that he was rejecting. Well, he's making calls now for a party-wide vote to be put to the members to see if they want to continue with the Butte House Agreement. Of course, it won't come to that because Humza Yousaf won't let it. He knows that most people in the party are against the Greens, but he also knows he would lose given his massive support. Let's have a look and see why Fergus is furious with the SNP. Here goes. So, furious Nat rebel Fergus Ewing blasts authoritarian SNP after 7-day suspension is upheld. This came around because the, what's her name? Lorna Slater was having a vote of no confidence simply because she was an absolute buffoon who was quite incapable of doing her job. This was after the collapse that she forced on the DRS. Oh, what amusement we had with that. And so he said that, he's going to... There was a Labour, I think it was a Labour proposal, and there was this call for a vote of no confidence in her. And he rebelled and he voted against her. He said he does not have confidence in her. And the people of Scotland do not and should not have confidence in her because she's quite clearly in a position beyond her capabilities. And that, unfortunately, caused the ire of Humza Yousaf, who was very supportive of the Greens. He has to be, because without them, he's running a minority government. And he's too scared to do that because that involves hard work. And he's quite a lazy, stupid man. And so he's trying to keep the Greens on board. What he didn't realise, of course, is that the Greens would never have walked because they are so, set now. They've got their feet under the table. They're not giving up power. They're never going to walk. You can do what you like to them. You can humiliate them, call them names, anything. It doesn't matter. They're not giving up that salary. But Humza Yousaf is too stupid to see that. And so he's put this, he called for the suspension of Ewing. Ewing appealed, so it had to go through. Then his mother died, unfortunately, sadly. And so they decided that they'd postpone it and they'd bring it through. And obviously they've gone through the appeals process and now they've upheld it. And he is absolutely fuming. I think he could walk. I think he could leave the SNP. I think the only reason he's still there is because of the memory of his mother. But I think his mother would be whirling in her urn at the thought of what is happening to Fergus. Anyway, the blistering attack on Humza Yousaf's leadership of the party sees the backbench firebrand challenge the First Minister to put the coalition deal with the Scottish Greens to the vote. And Humza Yousaf dare not. The majority of SNP members, no, not just MSPs in Holyrood, but the rank and file members across the country, are against the deal with the Greens. Because the Greens are toxic and they're going to cost every policy that's failed and failed expensively and spectacularly have all been Green policies, and that smear of crap has really just gone all across the whole of the SNP. And so people see the Greens and the SNP as completely interchangeable. They're all left-wing, Marxist, anti-growth perverts, pedos and predators. And that's the problem. And it's gone through to the core. And that's how people perceive them. And the members know this. The members look and they see that the Greens are dragging down the SNP, and so the members don't want the Greens anywhere near it. But Humza Yousaf has tied himself to the mast of the Green ship so tightly that if the Greens go down, he goes down with them. He knows that. And so he will not. He will fight tooth and claw to stop there being a members' vote on whether the Butte House agreement goes through and continues. If you had a leader with balls, like, I was going to say Kate Forbes, but she's on that vote last night. She hasn't got them anymore. But if you did have a leader with a spine, they would just simply fire the Greens now. Just say, look, go. We've got an election to win in 2.5 years' time. We can't be dragged down with your muck. Off you go, pervs and deviants. Get rid of them. And especially that absolute whack job, Maggot Chapman. She needs to be voted out. Anyway, Fergus Ewing has launched an extraordinary attack on the SNP after the party decided to uphold his week-long suspension for voting to sack Green Minister Lorna I Don't Know What I'm Doing Slater. The suspension will begin from midnight tonight, but his future in the party is again in the balance after he doubled down with a further assault on Humza Yousaf's authority, he hasn't got any, and the coalition deal with the Scottish Greens. The MSP for Inverness and Nairn said, I stood up for my constituents to protect them against a disastrous policy, the DRS. He said, and I voted with my conscience against that policy, which was eventually discarded. But the SNP leadership no longer tolerates a conscious vote. No, you've got to vote the party line. Any dissent is ruthlessly crushed. It is like the Politburo. Everything's got to be unanimous. Otherwise, the party is seen as weak. They don't like it. If you are a dissenter, you are finished. You agree. It's the cult of personality coming out all over again, isn't it? You have to agree with the great leader, no matter how stupid he is. He said the SNP changed the rules in 2021 to prevent any MSP voting with their conscience without prior approval. A conscience vote cannot be subject to permission or dependent upon anyone's prior consent. He said the group will always support the leadership. About 1/3 are on the ministerial payroll. So any conscience vote since 2021 requires prior permission of the whole group. Thus, the SNP has now become an authoritarian party requiring strict obedience to the leadership at the expense of personal freedom for any individual member. Leave, Fergus. Stand up. Cross the floor. Sit down. Don't care. Go to Labour. Go to the Tories. Go to the Lib Dems. Nobody cares. Go. Weaken them. If you cross the floor, they become weaker. And not just weaker by your vote. Not just weaker by one person. But weaker because they're losing one of the very few people in the party that's seen as in any way decent, good, hard-working and moral. And what does that leave? If the likes of Fergus Ewing can walk away from the SNP because of the sleaze, the filth, the decadence, the degeneracy, the crime, the corruption, the personality of the cult of personality, that sort of thing, where does that leave the SNP? It leaves them where they are, in a very dark hole with no way out. He continued anyway. He said, one can see the same authoritarianism in some policies, where, for example, we no longer trust ordinary citizens to reach the right verdict in trial by jury, or regarding gender reform, where the leadership will only listen to arguments deemed by them to be valid. Oh yeah, let's hear from the weird men who pretend to be women. Let's hear from the weird men's groups who want to advocate for this. Let's hear from this, that, and the other. Now, shall we hear from women who've been hard by these men? No, we don't want to hear from women. No. And that's what they did. They had the committee and they banned women from speaking at the committee. They didn't want to hear women's voices. He said, my view is people in Scotland absolutely do not want MSPs who must always blindly follow the party line. A nest of fearties is what they do not want. The poet Edwin Morgan wrote, he said, they do not want MSPs to be mere ciphers or rubber stamps of leadership dictation. If my constituents wanted a doormat, they would have gone to B&Q. I love you, Fergus. Well done. Well done. Now, he's one of the few day oneers, isn't he? He was there back in 1999. So he knows what he's talking about, and he knows his constituents. And he's been their representative for 25 years. And then the SNP come along and treat this man, who's a hard-working, conscientious man, and they treat him like a schoolboy, a kid. Oh, you shut up, Fergus. Do as you're told. Do as you're told. And he will not do as he's told. And I, for that, applaud him. I thank him for his service, and I do hope that he does decide, in the cold light of day over the next week or so, to say enough's enough, and then walk in a week's time, next Wednesday morning, walk in and walk over to the Conservative group, the Labour group, the Lib Dem group, whatever, and sit down with them and then just look and say nothing. Just look at Humza Yousaf and just sit there and go like that. And then watch as Humza Yousaf crumbles in front of his eyes. What he needs to do, in fact, is to do it on the Thursday morning just before FMQs and walk in and sit with whoever it is. Just sit there and look. Not in your usual place. Just sit at the opposition bench and or in your opposition group. You don't have benches, but just sit there and just look as as Humza Yousaf gets up for his first FMQs after your suspension, and just look at him, and he will crumble. He will crumble, and he will know. Coming up, what they've done by giving him this week-long suspension is not punish him. They haven't punished Fergus Ewing. What they've done is they've shown people what a petty little organisation of crooks they are. They've shown that they do not trust people. They've shown that they absolutely cannot abide anyone gainsaying what they think. Nobody is allowed a voice. They're showing that they are a dictatorship. Fergus, on the other hand, comes out of this shining. Wear your suspension like a star, sir. Walk in and just make sure they know. You now, Fergus Ewing, have all the power. There is nothing they can do. You are now martyred, and there's nothing more powerful than a martyr. Use it as a rallying call. Pull people to you. Surround yourself and fight. And I think it's going to be good. I think this isn't the end of it. This, by no means, is the end. I think now Fergus Ewing will be emboldened to be even more rebellious. And if he does cross the floor, fine. And if he doesn't, he'll fight from within. Either way, this is going to be entertaining. Thanks very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.